I'm just so ready to make it so much more real and raw and honest and pure than it has ever been. And I feel like the world needs more of that. Welcome to Holistic Balance, the podcast, where we bridge science and spirituality and explore what it really means to live a soul-led, fully human life. I'm Lisa, certified coach, Reiki master teacher, and psychology graduate. My mission is to help you reconnect with your truth, embody your healing, and create a life that feels aligned, not just on the outside, but deep within you. Here, we keep it real, raw, and soulfully grounded. So, take a deep breath and let's begin. It's been such a long time since I sat down and recorded a podcast episode, and I'm just so ready. I'm so ready to record a podcast and to make it so much more real and raw and pure as it has ever been. I mean, if you've been following me for the past couple of weeks and months, you've seen that I tried a lot of different types of podcasts. I tried the more, maybe you didn't notice it, but in the back end, that's what it looked like for me. The first episodes were more scripted. So I had a script and I was basically just reading the script. And I mean, there's a value to it, but for me, it just didn't feel real. It didn't feel like a conversation. I felt like I was just sitting in school, like presenting something, right? Trying to get through it as fast as possible. Like there was so much going on in my mind. And I honestly don't fully know what I've been talking about after I've finished recording the episode. And then I tried one that was more open, more real, more raw. And now that I say it, I think I never actually uploaded that episode. That's interesting. So here is the first official raw and pure conversation that we're having. And I would love to find a better name. I really want. I feel like Holistic Balance, the podcast, is nice, but I want something that is more like a conversation, like a heart to heart conversation. So if you have any name ideas, please drop it like in my Instagram messages, or you can send me an email, or like in the description box. There's so many different ways of how you can reach me. And I've been recently listening to she's my absolute favorite YouTuber. I really, for years now, I think, I don't know, maybe even 10 years or so, I always come back to her videos. And it's just, there's a vibe about her videos and her podcast that just makes me instantly calm but inspired, And she did something in her episodes, in her podcast, in which every episode she draws a card from an oracle deck. And I was like, wait a second, that is a great idea. So that's what we're doing today. And I actually, before hopping on this episode, because I wasn't fully planning on recording this today, but before hopping on recording this episode, I drew a card. And it was kind of like how do I want to approach the podcast moving forward kind of question that I had for the deck. And the deck is, I can link it in the show notes. It's one of my absolute favorites. It's the Starseed Oracle deck by Rebecca Campbell. And it's just incredibly beautiful. She has several different decks, and they're just all so gorgeous and so beautiful. And so I drew a card today, and it couldn't be more fitting for the podcast and how I want to approach the podcast, but also in general my approach to life and to my business and to connections with other people. So the card is called Earth, learning how to be human in the world but not of it. And the first thing that just came to mind when I read that, and we're going to go into what the description says in a second, but the first thing that popped into my mind was just like being human, allowing yourself to be human. Because I feel like in the world that we live in the society, in the culture that we probably all of us grew up in, or most of us, it's just so focused on being busy, on hustling, on achieving the next goal. Like just today, I was in a group that I'm in, like a community. I was sharing something about resting and about how this summer I'm learning I'm learning to rest. I'm learning how to reframe rest as not something that is another thing on our to-do list, but rather something that sometimes it's productive. Rest can be incredibly productive, right? But sometimes it's just me doing something. Sitting, I don't know, sitting in the grass. Sometimes that is rest. Sometimes rest is cleaning. I mean, baking, painting, reading. Like all of these things for me can be rest, and we can go into that topic in a different episode if you're interested, but it's just, I was sharing that. I was sharing that I'm kind of detaching from that idea of rest has to be another thing on our to-do list. And then someone else shared that her whole life walked around with the notion of rest has to be deserved. It has to be earned. And I feel like that's how we're wired. We're wired to be machines. We're wired to be busy. I mean, how many times have you bonded over being busy? And I think I shared that in a podcast. And after saying that in the podcast, I was like, okay, let's do a little self-experiment. Let's see how I respond when people ask me, like not my close friends, but acquaintances and everything, how I respond to them asking me, how are you doing? How has life been lately? And you know what? So many times I caught myself saying, busy, like I've been working a lot, but I'm good. Why? Why do we always bond over being busy? Why do we value being busy so much more than resting and nourishing ourselves? And I feel like I'm tapping into a more controversial topic right now, but I recently saw a post or a video or something that was saying that when we feed our kids things from McDonald's or fast food in general, no one raises an eyebrow. Everyone is like, yeah, that's just normal, right? Like here and there, that's normal. But if we feed our kids like a whole kind of whole food, nourishing diet, everyone is like, what are you doing? And I think that was, talking mainly about not giving them any ultra processed foods, cooking fresh, giving them even, if you're not plant based, giving them animal products. And I felt so represented in that post, even though I don't have kids, but I feel like when I tell people that I'm working, these past few months, I've been working like crazy and I had 7-day work weeks. When I tell people that, everyone is like, oh yeah, me too, I know. But when I tell people that I'm taking a sabbatical this summer and I'm stepping away from working a bit and I'm focusing more on myself, everyone is like, okay, cool, good for you, I guess. You know, there's way more hesitation when it comes to rest than when it comes to working ourselves out and burning ourselves out. I mean, if you look at the burnout rates, they increase and increase and increase. So for me, this card, it couldn't have been more fitting. I'm telling you. I saw it, and even before, I haven't read the description. We're going to go into that in a second. But even before reading that, I was like, wow, wow, couldn't be more fitting. And it's really about allowing ourselves to be human. And even when it comes to showing up online, I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you don't see a great deal of me there. And that has several reasons, but one of them being that I felt as if being a coach, being a healer, I have to have it all figured out. I have to have it all together. And meanwhile, in the back end, my life this past year, now it's getting better and better, but this past year has been really, really troubling and really difficult, and it hasn't been my best year. And because of that, I fell short on a lot of my practices. A lot of the things that I'm sharing and teaching, I haven't done myself. For so much time, I've been absorbing other people's energy, not doing my little, like really simple energy protection methods, even though I know how important they are. And that's a very key point. We can know cognitively, we can know, okay, this is something that we should do or we shouldn't do. We should go to bed early. We shouldn't scroll too much on Instagram. We shouldn't eat too much coffee. No, we shouldn't eat too much sugar and we shouldn't drink too much coffee. That's what I wanted to say. And yet, we're not doing that. We're doing the opposite of what we know would be best for us. Ultimately, what it boils down to is we're just humans, we're not machines. And so, connecting with that idea of allowing yourself to be human, and here in the card it says, learning how to be human in a world that requires us to act like machines is so powerful. There's such power in that. So, I'm so happy that for the first episode that I'm coming back, I'm back recording and I want to do this more consistently this time. I love that for the first episode, what comes up is that. So, moving forward, I want this to be an invitation for you and for me to be human, to just show up as we are rather than trying to be something we're not. Because we are human, we're not machines. So, let me pull up the description of the card and then I can share that with you because I'm pretty sure, like, they're always really, really beautiful. So, I want to just quickly share that with you. So, let me put it up. Here it is. The challenge for all souls having a human experience is to be in the world but not of it. That's the other thing. Recently, I've had a lot of interactions with people who are highly spiritual, way more spiritual than I am, I would say, or kind of way further along in their journey. And a lot of them reminded me of that, reminded me of you're not your body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you are simply a soul inhabiting this body. So treat it like a temple. And that level of, for me, it almost feels like kind of, if you could see me right now, you could see the movement I'm making, but it's almost like a zooming out, looking at your life, your body, what you're doing on a daily basis from the bird's eye perspective. For me, that has so much power and freedom in it because it allows you to not take everything so seriously. And it also completely reframed how I saw my body. Like these past, and we can go into that in a different episode, but these past couple of months, I've also not felt my healthiest and my fittest I've ever felt in my whole life. So there's been a lot of struggle with that also. And just coming back to that idea of you're simply a soul inhabiting this body, and this body is your temple for this lifetime. So treat it like that. Get the massage, eat the nourishing food. And nourishing food, I want to highlight that really quickly, is not always clean eating. Sometimes it's having a hot chocolate. Sometimes it's eating the piece of cake. It's not restricting. It's allowing yourself to eat what is nourishing. If I ate chocolate cake every day, would it be nourishing? No. If I have it once a week or once a month, is it nourishing? Yes. So that's the other part of treating your body like a temple, allowing, not staying in that mindset of it has to be ultra clean, it has to be a certain way. So back to the card. To realize they are souls having a human experience and be fully conscious of it, to have their soul fully embody their body. I love that. I mean, if you're in my world, you've recently heard me talk a lot more about embodying. So in my new coaching program, for instance, that it's not that new, but I recently launched it to the public. And in that program, I talk less about the actual tools because they're amazing, but a lot of you already know the tools. I don't have to teach you the tools. I'm doing Align and Thrive with a client right now who she taught me a lot of tools. So it's not about the tools themselves, it's about embodying them and embodying a practice that feels good for you. So this is beautiful. People's personalities tend to relate to either transcendence or immanence. Those who lean toward transcendence have a longing for the heavens and the metaphysical. They yearn for a personal experience with God and to be lost in the heavens. They're envious of the angels and are more comfortable praying and hanging out in the stars than on earth. Oh, I love that. And I'm pretty, I mean, that's a conversation for another day, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that. I mean, I'm going to read to you the other side of it in a second, but where do you see yourself more? Because I feel like it almost feels like a pendulum. You know, I'm going between the two depending on the season of life I'm in or what challenges I'm faced with, you know? So that's a very interesting conversation to have. Those who tend toward immanence have attached themselves more to earth and their body. They spend more time thinking about things in this physical world rather than connecting with the heavens or their own mystical inner worlds. Being a fully embodied soul, having a human experience, means finding the balance between transcendence and immanence. Being in the world but not of it. Wow. While reading that, before reading Finding the Balance, I was thinking that I think I used to be more attached to the physical world. And then recently, in the past couple of years, I feel like I moved more into maybe the transcendental world, if you can say it like that. But, you know, connecting more to that godlike or universe or whatever you want to call it, but to that energy and detaching a bit from the actual physical world. So that's interesting. Most starseeds are drawn towards transcendence. Not a native English speaker, and you can see it here. They're more comfortable with the angels and the heavens. Life on earth can be more difficult for them. If this is you, you're being reminded that you chose to be a soul in a body on earth, and you're being called to focus more on your energies in the physical world, to learn how to be human, a soul in a human body, fully present to what life on earth has to offer you. Wow. I wasn't expecting that depth, but this oracle always surprises me. Um wow. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And we can definitely go into that in a bit more detail in a different conversation. I feel like that's a more spiritual conversation where there's a lot of different opinions and a lot of different approaches. But I feel like what's to bring this home and to, you know, really kind of anchor into today is you are a soul living a human experience. And in yoga, for instance, they teach that a lot, right? Like kind of observing yourself in that experience also, and really observing what works and what doesn't for you and how you can navigate this lifetime. But I feel like just allowing yourself to be human and not punishing yourself constantly for making mistakes. I mean, while reading this, there were words that I stumbled over and if I was maybe a past version of myself, and I'm not talking that far in the distance, in the past, I'm talking more recent. She would have probably went back in the recording and went like, okay, let's read that again because I made a mistake. But rather, I want to leave this in because we are all humans. We're making mistakes, and that is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. So this is your invitation. Explore being human this week. Just connect with that. Make it fun. And if you stumble over a word, laugh about it. Make it a funny moment. It's not that bad. It's not that detrimental if you stumble over a word. No one thinks you're stupid because you do that once or twice or three times. So, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I really enjoyed chatting with you, even though it's a one sided conversation right now. But please, if you feel called to share anything about this episode, if you have any thoughts on anything that I mentioned today, send me a message on Instagram, comment on my latest post, send me an email. Just reach out. I always love chatting with you and connecting with you and just being human together. So, goodbye.